Okay, so I'm making this video as a way to solve my boredom problem by being creative. What I wanted to do was make a video on boot shine because just from all that I've seen on the internet and all of what I've learned in boot camp was, for the most part, wrong. I don't know how else to say it. You see people using hairspray and nail polish or leather luster on their boots, or they're using just different methods of applying polish and buffing it. I find it so weird. Like, okay, there's probably some method that you can use to properly apply this. I should have wrote a script for this recording because I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Oh, introduction. So I am in the forces. I don't care to explain which branch of service I'm in. I'm wearing this liner because no name. I have this box, so I wouldn't show my name and then have, okay, there's an announcement. Give me a second. Okay, well, in my time waiting for that announcement to finish, I've done this. Peak editing skills. And this is not in post-production that I'm making this. This is just, I'm using magic. I don't know I'm not an expert in anything right here. I can't even edit videos, so I'm not going to do that for this video. But back on topic, this is about shining the, I'm just going to pause this. I have by no means figured out how I'm going to record my boots, but what I use is the basic Kiwi shoe polish. I use random cloth, the brush, and of course cotton balls. That's the few things that I use. And I made this too. How do I move it? Editing skills need to come in clutch here. There we go. I might just put my laptop on the floor. That might just be the easiest thing. I'm not going to edit my phone recording into this. So I'll just get into the method. Okay, so how I plan to shine my boots is I can shine the front, but they're already shiny. I shined my boots this morning like a good enlisted personnel. But the back of my boots definitely need some more shining. Not shiny enough. And since I'm probably moving the mic away and closer to my face, I might just blow out my mic I don't know. I'm not good with audio engineering. But I plan to do that. I'm going to move. I might just do it on this desk. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you a bit of my boot shine. You can already kind of see it. It's kind of hard to... You know what? I have an idea. Give me a second. Okay, well, I figured out how to get an image of my boot on the camera screen. I might as well just shine it again because my left boot's kind of fucked up. So I'll do it. Now, this boot that I'm showing right now is after I've cleaned my entire room and have sprayed chemicals on my boot, which kind of ruined the shine a bit. And just another impartation of knowledge is that the shine does dull. As soon as there's not water on it anymore and it kind of just dries, the shine dissipates. It's not as clear, which is a bit sad, but there's no use worrying about it. That's just how things are. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. I also want to point out to any other service members that are watching this that when you're recording things, there's a thing called controlled unclassified information, which I'm sure is a perfect example if it was like right there. There was a phone number and there's also my barracks schematics. Now, I don't think it was visible in the video because my camera on this computer is quite garbage. But if it is, I'll have to scrap the entire recording because I can't edit for the life of me. But continuing on, with how shine works, I see it as divided into like two types. You have your base layer which you apply, which you put there. Boot shine is kind of malleable. I want to use that word. I consider it a bit malleable. So when you first apply polish, it's very easily smudged or manipulated. When you leave it to sit for a minute, it kind of hardens. That's what polish is. And from my knowledge, Parade Gloss is a polish that becomes more hard. I don't know, it hardens more. There's Parade Gloss, that's what it looks like. When you... Going back to wet and dry layers, how I apply polish is I put a lot of polish on my boots. And when I do that, it's just to build up layers to get rid of any scuffs or any other damage to my boot. Going into, I guess, health of the boot, polish is meant to kind of help keep the boot maintained. It's meant to prevent it from deteriorating. So it's good to apply a base layer over your entire boot every once in a while. And how leather works is it kind of needs to breathe a bit. And I'm not talking from any scientific standpoint. So if someone has knowledge other than what I have, just know that this is going off of what I know. And I have not done any research. But when you apply things like leather luster to your boots, it destroys any pores in the leather and makes it not breathable. So if your boot's not breathable, your feet are not going to have a good time. So the front of my boot right here, that's all steel toe. It's fine to apply things like leather luster right there because it's not a breathable part of the boot anyways. Any other part of the boot, I would not do it. I have no problems with leather luster. I think it's not really a good... Well, I just don't like it. I have no problems with it, I just don't like it. Things like hairspray and nail polish, they can look good. Hairspray can... When it rains, it can fall off the boot. And nail polish, I've not had good experience with it. But it also kind of destroys the boot. But just getting into more polishing wise, I apply dry layers first. The dry layer is just meant to build up polish. And then I apply a wet layer, which is pretty much just buffing it out. I take a cotton swab, I buff out the shine, and I make it look pretty. The problems with wet layers, though, is if you apply polish on top of a layer that has moisture on top of it, and you try and buff it, it can cause the polish to get grippy, and it can rip off all the polish that you've done so far, and it will be super hard to try and correct it. I've had a lot of bad experience with that, especially on dress shoes, and these boots too. But I've not had any issues with a long time with things like that. So after explaining what I know, I want to go ahead and get into shining. I'm going to shine this boot right here, my left one, because it's horribly scuffed. Because I have had people just rake their boot on top of mine just to remove polish, which, albeit. Okay. I also realized that no one's probably going to take the time to watch like a 20-minute video on boot shine. I have, but that's because I was a bit, again, bored and I had nothing else to do. But that doesn't matter to me. Watch at your own discretion. Getting my other boot up here. Not a lot of light, which I would prefer to be a lot more light. What I like to do is use 3 fingers. I have my face in here. Oh well. I like to use 3 layers. Or not fucking 3 layers. I'm already screwing up. 3 fingers. I use 3 fingers because the more fingers you can use to rub the boot, the more polish you can apply at one time. And that's one of the methods to applying the most polish. You can't just use a lighter, light the polish on fire, and then just, I don't know, just absolutely just, I'm lost for words. I can't even think of the word. You get the idea though. But 3 fingers. Quick swirl. Apply polish all over my boot. And then I let it sit for like a few seconds. And then I go over it with the horsehair brush. I like to do layers in 3s. So about once or every day or 2, I like to put another layer, 3 layers on. And I just go do a horsehair brush. You can actually get a mirror shine with a horsehair brush, which is, it's not a good mirror shine, but it's fairly decent. Because the more layers and polish you build up on the boot, the easier it is to keep a good shine on it. So I like to do this once, and then I'll apply another layer, and then go over it with the horsehair brush again. But I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to do that after I pause it. Okay, I just applied a second layer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to polish my boot, and after I do that, I'm going to immediately start buffing my boot. You can let it dry, the polish dry. I personally don't like that though, because it starts to harden, and buffing it becomes a bit weird. If I find for me that when I go straight into buffing it, it's most pleasant to shine it. And I'll do that, and then I'll give you a result of how the boot looks. Okay, well I just applied more polish to my boot. And then simply just go over with it with a wet cotton swab. Works really well. If you wait a minute before buffing it with a cotton swab, it'll buff much faster. But I just don't think it works as well. I'm by no means an expert. Just had many hours with shining boots. In fact, I've done a complete shine on my entire boot 2 times because I just had too much time. But that's about it. There's one more important thing that I'm missing. I don't know what it is. Like I'll just mention it when I think about it. But the 3 points on a boot that I think are good to shine is the toe box. Just a little box right here with the steel toe. You have the heel. The heel bends a bit on top for me. It depends on your boot. I'm not entirely sure how each different size boot shines. It also depends on the leather because they crack differently. And this little rim right here. There is a technique to shining it. Most people call me retarded for shining that, but it makes me happy because it makes my boot more shiny. And that's about it. Actually, I'll go over how to shine the rim after I finish this. I do apologize if it's a bit quiet. because the mic's far away from my face. I'll actually just take an image of my boot and then put it up on the screen. That would just be the easiest way to do that. So here's an image of the boot that I just shined. Now, this boot, I'll admit, is not incredibly shiny. So if I'm using this black box as my cursor because it's not going to show up on camera, but just right here, that's a scuff. And my boot has been horribly scuffed right here on the right side of my boot and along the edges. So what you could do is you could just apply a boatload of layers to a boot to get rid of scuffs, or you can just continue shining over it by using that 3-layer process that I'm doing, and it'll work just fine, because there's no need to just constantly get rid of scuffs, because that'll just happen to your boot. You might just go up a step and then you'll just clip your boot on a stair, and then bam, all that polish is gone, which isn't fun, but that's just kind of how it is. And I got nothing really else to say. I took this picture right after I applied the water, so it looks as crisp as possible. That's going to fade. It's not going to look as nice, but it looks pretty decent. And that's really all I have on boot shine. Oh yeah, well, the rim of the boot. I can go over that. I got that. If you would like to apply polish to the rim of your boot, there is a certain way to do it to make it look nice, because if you do it any other way that I've tried, it just doesn't work as well. So the method of doing it is you apply polish, use a horsehair brush to get it a basic shine, and then you use a wet cotton ball to enhance that shine. It's very simple. I'm not going to do my entire boot. I'm just going to do a small portion of it. But simply, take polish, get a bit on there. I'll do right. Well, first clean off your boot. It's probably dirty. You apply a bit of polish. It'll dull out, and once it's dull, then you can apply the brush. And you'll just have to scrub that till it looks nice, because otherwise it won't really shine well. Polish sticks funny to the rim of the boot, which is why I've used this method. When I first started applying it, I used to get polish chunks that would come off in like small lines, which was very intriguing. I'll have to get... That's fine. Okay. And then simply get a wet cotton ball and rub it against it. And then you can kind of tell this part right here on my boot is a bit definitely shinier than this part. At least that's how it looks to me in camera. My other and last word of advice is whenever you're going to start polishing your boot, you take a horsehair brush and you just do like a once over and knock off any dirt. It might put a few scratches in your current shine or polish, but knocking off the dirt is very important, because if you apply polish on top of dirt, it's not going to stick to the boot. And I can't stress that. I've not had any experience with dirt getting in the way of polish because I've always just done this. And I stick by it because in my training I've learned that when soldering, for example, if you apply solder, you know what, just might be unrelated, but connections don't work if things are dirty. That's what I'm trying to go with. If you try to apply a jumper to a rusted over car battery, it's not going to connect. And that's kind of why I follow that method to a T. It makes sense. I do it. It's what I just recommend. And that's all I have.